Hi everyone, Insightful Nomad here with another video, this time of the Swedish goblin and a darling of the media, Greta Thunberg, as she is about to sail in this new flotilla to Gaza to break the blockade, as she describes it. This is an interview that she gave to the far-left media outlet Novara Media. Let's hear what the useful idiot Greta Thunberg had to say.
Of course, you began in climate justice, climate activism. Now you've extended that to what would be considered more kind of internationalist struggles, class struggles, and so on. Mm-hmm. How does Palestine fit within that framework?
For me, my focus from being a climate justice activist has not shifted at all. I'm still acting in line with the same values. I'm still trying to practice those values as I preach. We are fighting for justice, and injustice that includes the liberation of Palestine, Western Sahara, justice for Congo, Sudan, Kurdistan, etc., etc. We cannot pretend to care about the climate crisis while we ignore the suffering and oppression of people today. If we do so, then that is, in my view, very much racism, that we select which people we care about. If we only care about our white children's future, that is not caring about justice.
I agree. We should care about all the suffering that's going on around the world, not just specific people, which is interesting because she mentioned some other conflicts. She mentioned Congo, she mentioned the Kurds, she mentioned Western Sahara. Is anybody talking about any of these issues? No. When's the last time someone said anything about the Kurds, which is a group of millions and millions of people who have been denied independence for decades? So I actually surprisingly agree with Greta. We should not be treating any group differently than anyone else, but that's what you're doing here when you're sailing specifically to Palestine out of all the places and not dealing with any of these other issues that are going on around the world. Interesting.
So for me, I have not shifted focus at all. The first demonstrations I went to was for welcoming refugees to Sweden during the wave of refugees coming from mainly Syria in 2014-15, and that is where I started my so-called activism.
It is so-called activism, you useful idiot.
So of course we cannot achieve any justice whatsoever if we exclude Gaza, if we exclude Palestine. People keep asking me, what are the links between climate justice and Palestine, and why do you care about Palestine? I do not understand how people cannot see that connection. In what ways are Palestine and climate justice not connected? Why should I not care about Palestine? I am a human being. I have basic values, common sense. Of course, there are the obvious links between climate justice, environmental destruction, and Palestine, which is wars, occupations, environmental degradation, ecocide, huge emissions. They go hand in hand, as Palestinians know very, very well, by destroying all the conditions to maintain and sustain life, by, for example, destroying cropland, and just pure ecocides are one way of ecological warfare to deprive Palestinians of their means of sustaining life. But also, it should be much more simple that if you care about a habitable planet, you should also care about human well-beings. I'm not a climate activist because I want to save trees or frogs. Like, that is also very important. We should avoid a climate breakdown. But I'm a climate activist because I care about human as well as planetary well-being. And even if we are so selfish that the images from Gaza of people looking for body parts of their lost family members through the rubble, if that doesn't break our hearts and inspire us, not inspire, but motivate us to take action, how can we expect a world that is allowing this to happen, to take a few steps back and act to prevent an ecological and climate breakdown? And also, how can we expect that world to stand up for us when we need it?
All right, Greta Thunberg, guys. By the way, notice her necklace, which shows a bit of like Palestine from the river to the sea, which I wouldn't be surprised if that's what she believes in. But yeah, that was kind of funny hearing her trying to make a connection between the war in Gaza and climate. Like this is the thing that's affecting the climate. I don't know. I don't think any of the countries that are around Israel right now are doing much in the way of climate change, but that's understandable because these countries are kind of poor and struggling with a lot of issues, and it's probably pretty low down in their um, list of priorities. But look, I mean, Greta Thunberg, she already sailed to Israel once with this like meager load of tunas and other supplies. And then she was arrested by Israel and deported. Of course, these supplies are, 0.001% of the aid that Israel is putting into Gaza on its own accord. There has been a problem, to be fair, of the distribution inside Gaza. That's kind of been a problem Israel hasn't been able to solve, of how to prevent Hamas from getting their hands on the aid and how to kind of make sure it's distributed to everyone. And that's certainly a problem that we saw, particularly a few months ago. So that is an issue, how to distribute aid. But as far as like aid actually entering, this like blockade where the aid isn't entering Gaza, she described, is simply not what's happening. We've also seen a lot of videos recently of people there on the border where all the aid is just waiting to go in. But in general, I mean, Greta, she's such an idiot. Like, she's a useful idiot. She's jumping on anything that gives her publicity. I remember back in the day when she started to become a thing, when I was working in the news, and there were some people in the newsroom who were so impressed with Greta. She's such a hero and a leader. And I said back then, I said, this is performative nonsense. This is performative nonsense. And one of my colleagues, who was a woman, by the way, and she liked the idea of this young leader woman coming up and being a figure, she said, well, she's achieved a lot much more than you, Alec. Which might be true, but for all the wrong reasons. And I saw then already that this person is not a person that is bringing about change in any meaningful way, but is just someone who loves the camera and loves a performance and loves to say general things that, on causes that she doesn't really understand, including climate change, which she doesn't understand, and this issue of Gaza, which she doesn't really understand. What can I say? But yeah, I mean, the media, some of the media love her. A lot of people are onto her as just a complete idiot, useful idiot for, in this case, the jihadists of Hamas, and those who don't want to compromise. So yeah, all right, Greta. Let's see you sail and break the blockade, so to speak. Let's see, let's see. And by the way, some of the other people on this flotilla, it's worth noting, there was this Brazilian guy, Avila, who was literally at the funeral of Nasrallah in Lebanon. Okay? This is the type of people that are in this flotilla. These who are going and literally supporting some of the worst people out there just because they're in this space of being on the side of, I don't know, the supposed oppressed, even if those people are themselves terrorists, jihadists, people with the worst fundamentalist ideology, like Hezbollah. They go in and they jump in on their side. And Hamas, she calls them freedom fighters who have the right to, quote, resist the occupation. And she wears a necklace showing all of the land from the river to the sea. And that's precisely what they're doing. They're resisting the occupation from the river to the sea. Israel, all of Israel, not just Gaza and the West Bank. And they're going to use the violence like October 7th to attack Israel in any borders. That's the resistance that she's talking about. And of course, there isn't much Israel can do about that, but try to stop them. There isn't much of a reasonable pathway that Israel can follow in this case. So yeah, Greta Thunberg, nothing's changed, performative, useful idiot. I can't wait to see the images of her being arrested in Israeli territorial waters and given a sandwich like she's in some type of summer camp, which is what happened last time. But yeah. That's it for now, guys. See you next time. Bye-bye.